So I now invite Mr. Rajapriya, the Senior Manager and Head Talent Acquisition, Servion Global Solution, to speak on exceptions and gaps in new age campus recruitment.
The first thing which came to my mind was when I saw the topic that is for the day is this too loud? Okay. So there was a WhatsApp group that I was a part of. Coincidentally, I became a part of that group because it's a group of freshers, quote unquote freshers, who are no more fresh. Like, let's say a year ago in my organization, and they included me because, you know, I was the first point of connect for them when I campus recruited them. And without realizing I'm on the group, they had actually shared something like expectation versus reality or about the workplace. Oh, that's when I realized there is so much of, you must have seen on all your Facebook and WhatsApp saying, what is expectation, a hero standing there, and then there is a side comedian who is showing you what is reality. So that's really what most of the, other side of the coin that, the students who come in with a lot of aspirations end up in. So I'm going to talk about this in both ways. So first, let's talk about what the majority of the room is now, the strength of the majority room is mostly people from the academia. So if you look at it, what really, can any of you answer me, what really is your expectation when you want to join the corporate world? I don't have more than 10 seconds. Any of you can give me an answer? Huh? Good working environment. Okay, very good. I like that answer. So when you say good working environment, the way I would define it is that you have some basic hygiene factors, which says that you have a, a place to sit in, and there are some, needs, logistical needs that are taken care of, and of course a job well defined, and you have a career path. Is that what? Does that summarize your good work environment?
No, ma'am.
The
environment is the teammates.
Can you stand up? I can't see you.
The environment is the teammates I have.
Oh, the environment starts and ends with teammates.
The teammates, yes.
Okay.
That makes the workplace more satisfactory.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're not worried about anything else?
No, ma'am.
It doesn't matter if you don't have...
Yes, sir. However, the job is going to give a salary.
So you should join my team. Okay.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, that's good. That's good on you, actually. So, see, it starts with that. So the point I want to make here is, while the expectations are pretty much standard, I mean, I would have around the same line. This is a little bit of a unique answer, but otherwise what I said before, like a summary of hygiene factors that we have, kind of remains constant across, let's say, a decade before, when I would have probably started, looking at campus in large numbers, vis-a-vis now, where typically the same kind of answers that you get. But whereas if you look at the gaps, very, very satirically, when comparison with the demand that we have, the number of people that come out of colleges today is widened. Okay, it's widened. That's statistically proved because you have statistics which says that our employability index for any campus recruit pass out is between 25 to 32%. Okay, it's been swindling between that. And the reason, and I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about only engineering graduates here. I'm not even talking about non-engineering graduates. So this means that when you're talking about such large numbers coming out, and still we are not able to improve on those index. So what really are the, what really is the gap, and what are we going to do about it, and let's have an insight into it. It's not like that. First of all, from the corporate's point of view, I think we need to, there is an aspect around wishing well about how you want your candidates to be. But what is reality is what we have seen all through these years. So I think expectation, if you look at it, there are plenty. To summarize across industries and not being skewed towards IT that I am a part of, I would say this is something that has been spoken about. I think Ganeshan sir touched upon this, so I'm kind of going to repeat through the same thing. We want to do that because we want to send the message across to the people out here, and you know what we are looking for when we actually come campus hiring. And it's not just about the hiring bit. It's also something that we look at when you're actually on the job. So that really impacts the way your performance chart goes through inside the organization. So if you look at it, the first aspect that I would talk about will be willingness to learn, which is what I think we discussed. So I would say that it is first of the wow factor. The moment there is, so when we hire also we look at that. So how do we judge that? How do we assess that? So that comes from typically how much learning that learning curve that you exhibit while you attend an interview, and the same thing while you are on the job. So I mean, I think there is a glaring difference with good, I mean, at the cost of sounding like a very rigid HR person. See, whenever, there was an campus, recruitment that I attended last year, the part of the GCT campaign. And there was this person who I said that, you tell me what is your favorite topic. That's the way we usually start, because we don't want to feel disappointed, especially the first few candidates. We wanted to start well, okay? So I asked him that, he was actually a physically, differently abled person. So I asked him, so you tell me what is your area of interest. So he said, my area of interest is actually plenty, ma'am, so you please define what you want. I said, no, I mean, let's get to your subject, so let's talk about it. So he actually talked about thermal dynamics, and we kind of got into the subject, asked him some couple of questions and all that. So finally, after listening to all that, he asked me, can I ask you a question? I said, yes. So how is this relevant to the work that I'm going to be doing? Okay, so that's exactly, so I told him I will answer that question to the end of our discussion. But the point here is that, the span of attention as we see in people, especially with the new smack era that we are in, is absolutely deteriorating. So which also has a direct proportion with the willingness to learn, because everything is available on, when you want to, you can look at it. So there is no need for someone talking to you about something. So if I'm talking something, if you can as well find it somewhere else, nobody is willing to spend time and listen to it. So it typically is, so when you go through those 4 years of rigorous engineering or whatever subject, we are keen to know how much have you actually gathered. I mean, it need not be necessarily through what, you can even talk about something, some vague subjects not even related, but it's about how your thought process is, culminated over the years, how the learning process has affected you, impacted you. That's really what we are interested in knowing. It's not about, the subject matter expertise, which is what I think most of the people, because they go on Google and figure out what company kind of, not Google, maybe even network, your senior can tell you what Servion or what CSS Corp or TCS can, are looking at in terms of standard questions. So that will float around, and the glass doors will all be open talking about what questions typically the HR asks. But it's really not about that. It's really what we look at as an expectation in terms of willingness to learn, which comes from a streamlined thought process. So as long as I feel that you are committed to whatever you're doing and focus, so that comes through. So that's one big aspect. I would think another big aspect of the wow factor that I'm talking about will be the osmosizing ability of each of you over here. What is osmosis? Can anybody quickly summarize? I want to know if you're sleeping or not, so that's why. Nobody knows osmosis? Anybody? Quickly? Huh? Extraction. Yeah, so abstraction, extraction. So how is it related to the current context that I'm telling?
Yeah, in the job scenario, one has to affect the extractor on a daily crisis moment.
Okay. You sound like Amir Khan's teacher in Three Idiots. Okay, to explain it in HR terms and layman's, thank you, sir. In layman terms is, how much am I able to kind of correlate with the environment that I'm in? So that really is osmosis, okay? I might know X number of things, that's really my ability, okay? But it is converted to a capability factor only if I'm able to kind of implement it in the environment I'm in. So a typical example I would give you is, people start off with, big companies like, typically you get placed with companies like TCS or Infosys, okay? And you would see that the current trend is beyond 3 years they can't sustain there, so they want to move on to a product company which probably pays double what they're doing. So that typically is what? Yeah, exactly, that's our challenge. So they move there, okay? So why would they want to do it? I mean, the issue here is not about, I would say it's basically to do with peer pressure, okay? And not able to osmosize with what actually the need of the business is at this moment. So that really is what the factor is. And the way your career gets defined in any organization, you also find long timers. I mean, I would grab this opportunity to say that Servion has around 72%, if I'm not wrong, in terms of people who are there for more than 5 years, okay, which is a big number. I mean, you might not see the same thing in, you might see much more such ratios in other industry, but in IT it's a big deal, and for a company of our size. The reason being that this osmosis factor that we concentrated on was through various initiatives that we did to make sure the guy is very comfortable when he joins. I'm not talking about just orienting a person, but making sure a person is, so we have some initiatives which says that a person joins in, so what really next for him, what is his career progression, how are we looking at, and what are his options inside the organization. So for a company which is hybrid, like, which is based on product and services like ours, it becomes easier. But might not be so when you're purely services and not that big in size. But the point here is the success factor for a fresher or for a lateral or anybody who's joining a company is more about how you adapt yourself. So that really is osmosis. And the difference I would say here is on trying to be as close to what the business needs are. Mostly people don't understand. If you ask someone, I happen to be a part of a big running group, and ellam oru 22-23 vayas pasanga da. So if you ask them, where do you work, okay, they can say the big company, but if you ask them, what do you actually do, I don't find that enthuses any of them. So that is actually surprising, because you want a 22-23-year-old guy to talk about it with interest, saying, hey, I'm a part of this domain. I don't see that coming at all. So there's something that we lack in terms of making sure. So there is an expectation mismatch there. So that's what we sense. So I kind of probe into it further, saying that what really are you missing there? Is there something day to day you're expecting? So they use a carrot and stick approach, saying that we have an on-site after 6 months, but that doesn't happen, so somebody else gets on-site. So there is a preconceived notion the guy is having. He's not understood what he needs to be doing in the first 2 years. So that really causes a lot of, expectation mismatch that he's having in his mind, which is very difficult for anybody else, let it be HR or the CEO to bridge. So I think, okay, I'm sorry, I'll quicken it, okay. So that's one thing I want to talk about. And the most important, which is also related to this, I would think, will be the tenacity of people. Tenacity as in making sure that you take your time to understand what the business is. So you are fresh out of college, okay? It's like, a clay which is getting molded. So give yourself that time. I mean, I don't think you should be on a judging spree. We currently have a batch, parallelly 2 batches are going, and we have around 80 students who are getting trained on, a lot of domain versus, technical training. There's a lot of investment that we are doing on the people. But if you look at feedback and if you have a discussion with some of them, they already have impressions about how their work has to be and how they want to see themselves. I'm saying that's fine. That's fine to have a good goal, but defining what your external environment do, I'm not sure whether we, after so many years of being into, in service, I'm sure most of us here, most of my colleagues will agree that we don't have that luxury. So it takes some time, right? So give it that time. Give it that time. It's good to have an aspiration, but give it time, please, before you kind of decide what your, how your expectation is going on. So this is my third point. And quickly, obviously we spoke about, but I would want to leave you with this thought. In fact, this is what I would think should be a takeaway from what I spoke about today, is the innovation bit that we are talking about. I normally look for the innovation dig in any of the recruits that I do. When I say innovation, we mostly think about someone producing a iPhone 7 or iPhone 8. It's not about that. Innovation, as I define it, is doing anything that you normally do slightly different, or rather I would say slightly more productive or slightly more efficiently. That's it. So let's say if you're getting up and coming to office in a particular time, how smartly do it today? Did you do anything different today? How smartly do? That is innovation to me. And that's really what organizations are looking at. And even when they hire you, that's really what. So look at your innovation index. In fact, I would urge each one of you to measure it every day and say 10 things that you do on day-to-day basis. How do you do it differently? Has there been a difference? So 6 weeks from now, am I doing anything different from what I did, some time back? So that's really what you should assess. So self-innovation index for each one of you is the thought that I want to leave you all with. Please do it, and that's really the starting point for us to bridge the gap between the expectation and reality. Okay? Thank you. Any questions? Do I have time? Later.
You need to really rush now.